She said it with that little half-smile she used to wear when she wanted to make me feel small. "I'd rather hug a skunk," she laughed, tossing her hair back as if I were a joke she'd already told 100 times. I remember blinking at her, wondering if this was still the woman I'd proposed to under a sky full of fireworks 3 years ago. "My name's Ethan, 38, from Ohio. I used to think I understood humor. I believed teasing between partners meant affection. But somewhere along the line, the jokes turned into daggers, small, daily cuts disguised as sarcasm. It started quietly, little remarks in front of her friends. How I still didn't know how to dress like an adult, or how some men just peak too early. They laughed. I smiled, because that's what men are taught to do when the woman they love makes them the punchline. Back then, I told myself it didn't matter. Everyone jokes. Marriage needs humor. But over time, every laugh felt like sandpaper against my skin. The night before her skunk comment, we were at her sister's house for dinner. I'd just gotten a promotion at work. Nothing grand, but it meant stability, better hours, fewer weekends. I mentioned it lightly while we were eating, proud in that quiet, boyish way men sometimes are when they finally feel seen. Her response? "Oh, so now you'll finally have time to learn how to fix things around the house." Everyone laughed. Even her father, who should have known better, laughed. I smiled, but my chest burned. When we got home, I tried to tell her how it made me feel. She rolled her eyes. "Ethan, you're too sensitive." It was a joke. That line, I'd heard it before. It's what people say when they don't want to take responsibility for cruelty. The next morning, she was scrolling through her phone, half watching some reality show. I stood by the counter, ring catching the light as I turned it between my fingers. I asked, softly, "Do you even like me anymore?" She didn't look up. "Like you? Ethan, you're so dramatic. You sound like those sad Reddit guys who write about their feelings." And then she smirked. "I'd rather hug a skunk than deal with this again." That's when something inside me went still. Not angry, not sad, just still. I realized that love shouldn't make you feel like a comedian dying on stage. It shouldn't leave you rehearsing your own defense before breakfast. I looked at her, the woman I once couldn't go a day without texting, and I saw nothing familiar left. Not her tone, not her eyes, not even the curve of her mouth when she smiled. So I slipped the ring off my finger. It made a soft metallic sound as it hit the table. "You'd match perfectly," I said. Her head snapped up, confusion chasing the smugness from her face. "Excuse me?" I didn't repeat myself. I just walked past her, out the door, into the kind of autumn air that feels like freedom pretending to be cold. I didn't go far, just to the park where we'd first met. There was an empty bench under a tree shedding gold leaves. I sat there, staring at my hands, noticing how bare they looked. The world around me was quiet, except for the faint laughter of children playing somewhere in the distance. Funny, I thought. They laugh because they're happy. We laughed because we forgot how to be. I don't know how long I sat there, but the stillness felt like the first honest thing I'd experienced in months. When my phone buzzed, it was her. A text. "Are you seriously leaving over a joke?" I stared at the screen for a while. My thumb hovered over the keyboard, but nothing came out. There was no anger left to write with. Instead, I turned the phone face down on the bench and let it buzz until it stopped. Maybe that's what growing up really is. Not winning arguments, but choosing silence where noise used to live. For the first time in a long while, I wasn't waiting for her to apologize. I wasn't waiting for anyone to understand. I just breathed, and the air didn't taste like disappointment anymore. By the time I got home that evening, the house felt like someone else's. Her shoes were by the door, her perfume hung in the air, but everything seemed foreign, like walking into a museum of memories that didn't belong to me anymore. The ring still sat on the table where I'd left it. She hadn't touched it. I don't know why I noticed that detail, but somehow it mattered. In the kitchen, her phone charger was gone. Half the closet, too. I stood there, staring at the empty hangers, and realized that maybe she didn't expect me to actually walk away. She thought I'd cool off, laugh it off, call it just another fight. But this time wasn't like the others. See, love doesn't die from a single cruel word. It erodes, grain by grain, every time respect is replaced with ridicule. By the time you notice, there's nothing left to stand on. I made coffee the way I always do, but the silence hit different. There was no background noise, no sarcastic comment from the living room, no half-laughed insult over the TV. Just quiet. And I liked it. I didn't cry. Not that night, not the next morning. I think the part of me that would have cried had already done it. Quietly, over months of pretending jokes didn't hurt. 2 days later, she called. I didn't answer. Then came the texts. We need to talk. You're being immature. You seriously ended our marriage over a stupid joke? Each message was a thread pulling at the old me, the version that needed her validation to feel sane. But I didn't reply. I was learning something powerful. Silence can be louder than shouting. On the third day, she showed up at my apartment. I'd packed a small bag and rented a short-term place downtown. Nothing fancy, just enough to breathe. She knocked twice, sharp and fast, the way she used to when she was angry. When I opened the door, she stood there. Arms crossed, face tight, trying to mask panic with attitude. So this is it? She asked. I nodded. Yeah, I think so. She laughed, but it didn't have that confident edge anymore. You're really doing this over one bad joke? I met her eyes. It wasn't one joke, Emma. It was years of them. That shut her up for a second. She looked around the apartment, bare walls, folded laundry, a single coffee mug, then back at me. I didn't think you'd actually leave, she said quietly. I didn't think I would either, I admitted, until I realized staying was just slower dying. For a moment, neither of us spoke. The kind of silence that feels like a truth finally landing between two people who've run out of excuses. She tried one last jab. You think you're better off alone? I gave a small, honest smile. No, I just think I'm finally being treated the way I treat others. Her eyes flickered, searching for a comeback, but there wasn't one. She turned to leave. Halfway down the hall, she stopped and said softly, You'll regret this. I didn't answer. Some words deserve no echo. When the door closed, I sat down and exhaled like I'd been holding my breath for years. That was the moment I understood something I wish I'd known earlier. Love isn't proven by how much pain you can endure. It's proven by how much peace you're willing to protect. In the weeks that followed, life slowed down. I started jogging again, cooking for myself, even called my sister for the first time in months. She said, You sound lighter. I said, Maybe I finally stopped confusing chaos for passion. Every so often, I still think about her laugh. Not the cruel one, but the early one. The laugh from when we first met, when everything was new and full of promise. I don't hate her for what she became. I just wish she'd loved me without needing to make me smaller. Sometimes, late at night, I replay that last moment. Her laugh about the skunk, my ring hitting the table, the look on her face when she realized I meant it. It isn't pride that fills me. It's peace. Because walking away wasn't about winning. It was about remembering that self-respect isn't arrogance. It's survival. People think heartbreak is about losing someone. But sometimes, it's about finally finding yourself. After years of standing in someone else's shadow, waiting to be seen. So if anyone ever laughs while trying to make you feel less, let them. And then walk away. Not out of spite, but because some jokes stop being funny the moment you remember your worth.